Hey everybody, welcome to another chapter of the Book of Sean. Thank you for tuning in. I'm excited about this conversation, okay? How much do you know about church hurt? I'm laughing because I know too much about it myself. Some of my greatest disappointments have come from the church. My guest tonight, Jeanette, is here, and she knows emphatically what it means to deal with the disappointment of church, a place you should be able to go to be restored, inspired, liberated, uplifted. I don't go through all the adjectives you want that are positive. And it turns out it can be a very debilitating, binding, disappointing experience. I want to know why that is. I want to know what's going on in church that so many people are running from it, and why Jeanette has had so much pain with respect to church. And the conversation isn't just about church hurt. It's really about, because a lot of people watching, y'all don't go to church. I get it. But it's really about how people who should be uplifting you and making you better happen to be hurting you and breaking your heart. I drew you in right there, didn't I? Yes. So get comfortable, people. Enjoy. Take your shoes off. We're going to have a great conversation. Jeanette's going to be a great guest. We're going to do some Ask Dr. Sean later on, because you people seem to love that a lot, and I appreciate you loving it. And we're going to do some headlines to start off with. So how about we get started? Play the bumper, Hiley. Headlines. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders, okay? Let's talk about Bernie Sanders, because check this out. The campaign manager for Senator Bernie Sanders sent out a public memo which said that Senator Bernie Sanders has not ruled out a presidential run in 2024. The memo went so far as to list polls that showed Senator Sanders remaining popular with voters across the country and in key states. And apparently the memo had talking points for surrogates. That's how serious the former campaign manager, or the current campaign manager, Bernie Sanders, happened to be taking all of this. And here's where we pick up the story. You ready for this? At what point do we say we've had enough of Bernie Sanders? Is it okay to say that? You guys, I don't know. I know a lot of people love Bernie Sanders, but I'm just asking a couple of questions here. When is it that you should know that enough is enough? That you've run twice and you've lost twice, and maybe that's enough. Like, when does that kick in? All right? Now, just to be honest, just for full disclosure, I was never a big supporter of Bernie Sanders. I'm not a socialist. I'm an egalitarian capitalist. And I think ideologues on either side of the spectrum happen to be unproductive and can be cumbersome to the political process. But I did support Bernie Sanders and a lot of what he had to say on poverty and working people. But all of that notwithstanding, here's my question to you. Don't you think it's time for Bernie Sanders to realize that it might be time for him to pass the baton and let somebody else have a try? Because here's why, before you get all hussy-fussy with me. Bernie Sanders right now, at this moment, as we speak, at this very second, this millisecond, he's 80 years old. Right now. I just saw your face, Jeanette. I just saw your face, too. Because you didn't. He's 80 years old. 2024, he's going to be older. He's going to be older than that, okay? My point is this. It is not that I don't think an 80-year-old or 80-year-old should be put out to pasture. I don't think that at all. It is not that I don't think that an 80-year-old couldn't be president. I'm not saying that at all. But I just want to say what I just said, because it bears repeating, and it's worth the trouble of saying it again. If you run twice and you lose twice, at what point do you get the message? At what point do you realize that America might not be that into me? Oh, Lord. Y'all pray for me. We're talking about church tonight. I'm trying to be holy. Let's talk about the Tennessee legislature. This is a very interesting story. You're going to love this story. So apparently the Tennessee legislature passed a bill that will require drunk drivers to pay child support if they kill the parents of minor children. The legislation has not been signed into law, but I wanted to know, what do you guys think about that? What do you think about a drunk driver having to pay child support if that drunk driver kills the parent of a child due to their negligence, their being drunk? Now, on the one hand, you could say a drunk driver made a mistake, and why should a drunk driver have to, pay for some kid that he or she doesn't know for the rest of their childhood? But on the other hand, you could say A drunk driver decided to be drunk and drive in a society where you don't have to drive drunk because we have things called Uber and Lyft. Yeah. So what do y'all think about the law? Do you think it's fair that a drunk driver should have to pay child support as if the drunk driver was the parent of the the kid whose parent they killed? I happen to think this is a good law, okay? Some of y'all may disagree, but I happen to think this is a good law, and I'll tell you why. I think we need to get back to the practice of holding people accountable for bad behavior. We live in a culture where you get rewarded for being totally reckless, out of control, demeaning yourself, disgracing your family, throwing drinks at people, cussing people out, and punching people on airplanes. We live in a culture that rewards you for being out of your mind, and I think, morally speaking, we ought to get back to the practice of punishing bad behavior. You don't get a pass if you kill somebody's parent because you decided to drive drunk, once again, in a society that has Uber and Lyft. I just think there should be rewards for people who make good decisions, and yes, there should be consequences for people who make bad decisions. If you kill somebody's mama because you decided to drive drunk, you should have to pay for that mama's children. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And if you don't like the thought of having to pay for somebody else's children, then guess what you should do? Not drive drunk. I saw you, Jeanette. Jeanette is with me. She's 100% with me tonight. Because you caught the words for it came out of my mouth. All right, let's move on, because I already can't wait to talk to you. All right, let's talk about this student poetry contest in China. Maybe you guys didn't hear about this. So, a student poetry contest in China has become the source of an unexpected outlet, let me get my words together, of public frustration over social issues that have rocked the country in recent months. And apparently the government did not expect this. Poems submitted to the International Chinese Short Poetry Competition for college students unexpectedly explored topics such as the lockdown because of COVID, gender identity, environmental issues, poverty, and freedom of expression. And for some reason, Chinese officials did not expect Chinese students, college students, to be writing about this stuff. They thought they were going to write poems about trees, and rocks, and flowers, and romance. But no, the Chinese college students, they decided to write about their lives. Huh? You know that's good. And I'll tell you why that's good. Because that's what art is for. Great art grows out of dissent. And when art is rooted to life, it becomes more powerful. It becomes more impactful. And I don't know why the Chinese government did not expect Chinese students to write about their world. Have you heard about what's going on in Shanghai? Sivo, you hear about this in Shanghai? What's going on? I mean, people are under extreme lockdowns because of COVID. This far into the pandemic, it's extreme lockdowns. Like, Shanghai has become a prison, a city that is a full prison. And you expect people not to write about that? See, here's what I know for sure. I know for sure that people in every race and creed and tongue, identity, sexual orientation, and gender, on every part of the planet, people yearn to be free. We desire to be able to dance, laugh, cry, and love each other in all languages. And when poetry and poets begin to write about what we most yearn for, that's when artists are most powerful. See, what the Chinese government should really be worried about is this. What begins with poetry will end in protests before it's all over. And if Chinese students are writing poems about the life that they want, you better believe eventually they're going to hit the streets and start to demand the life that they want, and not in poems, but in living prose, as it were. Please hear me when I tell you this. I want to celebrate these young poets. I want to celebrate these young poets, because when the world is at its worst, that's when we need artists to pick up their pens. Please understand that great art is not just about beauty, it's about dissent. And not accepting the world as it is where the need for beauty comes from. When it is all said and done, If you are an artist watching this right now, if you are a creative watching this right now, I need you to pick up your creativity and pick up your art. Because contrary to how you may feel sometimes, the world needs you. Let's do one more before I bring out Jeanette, who I already like. Let's talk about, listen to this, man. Steve-O, pay attention. This is going to be interesting. Let's talk about Jeremy David Hanson. Let's talk about this guy. So Jeremy David Hanson was arrested this week after he allegedly sent a threatening online message to the Merriam-Webster Company, this is the dictionary, over definitions containing references to gender identity. So check this out. Yes, this man, Jeremy Hanson, allegedly threatened the dictionary people for including definitions currently at work with respect to gender identity and the evolution and the changing of those definitions. So apparently he didn't like the fact that people have more than one definition of girl and woman, and he went so far as to threaten the people who write the dictionary. It's not funny, but it kind of is. I'll tell you why. So apparently he was thinking that if I can get this out the dictionary, I can get this out the world. That's what makes it funny. Jeremy, I know you're not listening because you're probably, either worried about being, I should have said he allegedly, by the way, did this. Let me be clear before Trina texts me. He allegedly did this. So allegedly, Jeremy, I have some concrete advice for you in the event that you allegedly did this. You ready for this? The world has changed, bro. This ain't 1982 no more. It ain't 1977, whatever definitions that you had, it's changed. And I'm not saying that whatever definitions that you hold, or you get to hold whatever definitions you want, sir. But here's what I know for sure. There's enough room in the world for all of our definitions. So if you have a strict definition of what a woman or a girl is, and it's based upon traditional conservative views, there's room in the world for your definition. But if a transgender sister has a different definition, there's room in the world for her definition too. And guess what? Both of these two things can exist at the same time. And they can exist in tension with each other and in conversation with each other. And sometimes the definitions will change, and sometimes minds will change, and sometimes people will walk away saying, I believe what I believed before I had this conversation, and I believe it still. And that's okay too, Jeremy. It's okay if you don't change your mind. You see how I did that? I didn't allegedly write a threatening post to the people who write the dictionary? Come on, man. I believe that people should have the right to define themselves. This is just what I think. Whatever you think is up to you, you get to think it, and I'm all for it. But here's what I think. I think people should have the right to define themselves. I think people should have the right to tell you who they are. Guess what else I think? I think people should have the right to withhold their definitions and to tell you that it's none of your business about who they are. I think people should have the right to do what's most comfortable for them in a way that's comfortable for them, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. As long as you're not hurting nobody else, you should have the right to define, to speak or not speak about who you see yourself and perceive yourself to be. In fact, I believe that Mr. Jeremy, the alleged threatener of the dictionary people, has the right to think what he thinks. He has the right to believe exactly what he believes. But what he doesn't have the right to do, and what I don't understand, is how did your disagreement or his disagreement descend into something dangerous? Why can't we just disagree with people? Vehemently, rigorously, stridently, relentlessly, without it descending into something violent and threatening. I don't understand how most people on the right who are conservative and limited in their, at least in my opinion, in their understanding of the current intricate inner workings of the world, so easily descend into threatening and hurting people. Why do you go from disagreement to threats so easily? The loss of the world as you knew it and the loss of your privilege, I understand it's a very insecure place to be if you're holding on to something that the world seems to be changing about. But what you don't have anybody's permission to do is to make other people feel like their lives are at threat or in danger because you've lost your little definition. Y'all need to stop that. I shouldn't repeat myself because I get in trouble for this, but it's not 1982. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about church hurt, okay? Because there's a lot of it going on, and there's a lot of people being disappointed, not just by church, but by a lot of other people who should be caring and loving and protecting you, and they end up hurting, disappointing, and rejecting you. That's what this conversation is really all about. So you stick around, because it's going to be a good one right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Listen, okay? So do you go to church? Ever been to church? You like church? Used to go to church? Mother go to church? Grandmother? I don't care what church you go to. We ain't going to name no church on this show today, but I don't care what church you go to. At some point, the people in that church are going to get on your nerves. Let's take it out of church. Let's take it into your job. You ready? Because you don't go to church. I don't care what job you work at. I don't care how much they pay you. At some point, the people there are going to get on your nerves, and they're going to do something that's going to make you wish you had gone to church, because you're going to need all the faith you got to keep you from cussing and killing somebody. Metaphorically killing. Not really. Let me not get in trouble. Anyway, welcome to my guest tonight, Jeanette. What's up, Jeanette?
Hey, Dr. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing good. I loved your energy when I was doing my little headlines. You had such
I loved it all. I loved it all. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you. We're going to have a great conversation, okay? Because a lot of this I'm going to agree with, and then some of this I'm just going to push back just for the sake of pushing back, okay? So we're going to have a good time. So I like to get right into it with this, because this is such an interesting topic for me. So tell me this, what's been your biggest disappointment with church?
Oh, Dr. Sean, I wrote about it in my book, and I've had several experiences that have been just heart-wrenching, from being asked to leave the prayer ministry because I wasn't tithing, because, being there was one with the tithe. I've been asked to leave a church when I was most broken, when I was first introduced to this church, because I was a bad reflection on it. I was married to a drug dealer, and I was desperately needing Christ Jesus. And I was a pretty functional, if you will, drug user myself. And I even worked at the church. But when I was asked to, when I confided in my peers, because I wanted them to pray for me, Dr. Sean, pray for me, because I needed help. That's when, the word got out, and I was asked to leave because I was a bad reflection on the church. So those are two.
Because we got to drill down into that second one, okay?
Okay.
First, I want to make sure I heard what you said, because it kind of just blew my mind. So you told the truth about your situation, your condition, and the person that you were loving, and then they punished you for telling them the truth.
Yes, and some accusations came along with it, that I was laundering money in the church. I'm a giver, Dr. Sean, and just flowers and just giving was something that was in my heart to do. And the tithe at that time was taken out of the check. So I don't know why I was accused of laundering money, Dr. Sean. I was accused of laundering money in the church. And then when I was asked to resign, my belongings from the desk was left on my steps, Dr. Sean. I was at a broken place in my life. And I just thank God for recovering me and seeing me through those tumultuous times. That's how that situation transpired.
You've explained it, and so I got it, right?
Yes.
But a part of me still does not understand, how is it that a church that claims to be a church, right, would punish someone for bringing them their truth? It just seems to me that the very point of being in a church is you can be honest, you can bring people your pain, and they're not worried about, as you put it, so interestingly, you being a negative reflection on the church. I thought the church was a place where broken people go to get healed. Did I get this wrong?
I got it wrong. I thought I had it right by going and by confiding and opening up, Dr. Sean, but perhaps it was a time when the church didn't know how to navigate drug use. And what do I do with this person? I don't know how
I
to.
got an answer. You love them. It's not that hard. You know, listen, you love them. You care for them. You cover them. You protect them. I got a whole list of things you should do. So let me ask you this. Was
Yes.
there one sort of defining moment in your time with church that really changed everything? Like this was the moment where you said, my feelings have totally changed now, and they may not change back.
Well, if it had not been for God's intervention in what I was dealing with at the time, I probably would be deterred from ever attending church again. But I began to look at the God of the church.
No, wait. I don't want to go there yet, because on that issue I'm gonna push you. When we come back to this issue later about about where you are with church now, I promise I'm gonna push you. But what I'm asking is a different question. What I want to know was there an experience? Because you've given me two, but I'm asking, was there a fundamental experience that just changed your relationship with church really forever or fundamentally?
Well, yes, gaslighting, Dr. Sean, and character assassination is something that I have found to be prevalent in the church, and experiencing that and writing about that has changed my perception of the institution.
Yeah. So you are a minister yourself, if I got it correct, right?
I do minister, Dr. Sean. I do a program called The Spiritual Connection where I hear other people's testimony. So I'm not used to sitting on this side.
But you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So I guess that makes me want to ask you, if you think your experiences in church and as a minister were what they were and are, in part because you are a woman. I guess I'm asking, do you feel like being a woman added another level of burden to your experiences with churches and pastors?
That could be the case. I first, I want to just preface whatever I say by being grateful for every minister who has spoken into my life and imparted words of wisdom and who has helped me to grow. But yes, there is that notion that being a female may lend itself to less credibility, less respect than it would a male. I was asked, Dr. Sean, once, another example, to lead a women's ministry. And I love women. I feel that I have a lot to offer. I've been through a lot. God has brought me through a lot. But I did not sense in my spirit, I could not reconcile at that time that this was an opportunity, a position that I should have taken. For several reasons. But I felt a chastening. I felt a real chastening after that because I didn't accept it. The examples may not have been what I needed them to be.
Okay, hold on. I don't talk regular because people don't know.
I'm being hypothetical to you, huh?
Yeah, because people don't know church talk. So when you say chastening, what happened when you decided not to do the women's ministry?
Well, you feel this whipping, Dr. Sean.
From
it feels
who?
like a whipping.
From who?
A lashing. A pulpit lashing. It feels like you're being pulled to the pit. You're being chastened because of the decisions that you make. And hold
on. So I'm just pulling out the story. I don't mean to be rude. I'm just pulling out the story. So when you decided not to do the ministry,
yes.
What I hear you saying is whoever the minister was, they got up in the pulpit, and in response to that, they did what?
Can I just generalize and say little gaslighting? Can I say express dismay? Can I say maybe my perception is your dismay that I did not accept this position. And now I'm accused of, not loving women, maybe not wanting to help, not wanting to give, not wanting to be a servant, when I may not have a good example to
Do you see
want
my
to
face?
lead.
Do you see my face? I'm just listen. I listen.
What, Dr. Sean?
Listen.
What?
It's taking all the strength I have right now, not to just go, not to be bombastic about what someone did to you. I let me ask questions.
Well, Dr. Sean, check this one out though. How about being asked to leave the prayer room because you don't tithe? So I made a decision to rescind my membership from the church, but this prayer was just so good for me, and I needed it. I'm a single parent, I'm struggling, and I needed to be in there. And after rescinding my membership, and I go, and I was asked, told that I could not come back because it was one with the tithe. And I tell you, I had been in so many $100 lines and had given so much and was single parenting without compromise that I did not, I was given. That's all I knew. But then when I was asked not to return, that was a broken place too. So I've been broken a lot, in church. And I know there's church hurt and there's every kind of hurt. And I'm just grateful that I have a relationship with the Lord, that I still have a solid foundation with or without the edifices of the building.
Okay,
So
I'm with all that, but here's what I want to know. Okay,
yes,
I want to
yes,
know when in either one of these stories where
yes,
where you are gaslit from the pulpit because you won't do the women's ministry, or when you are sort of run out of the church because you're honest, right?
yes.
Or when you are persecuted and asked to leave the prayer situation because you won't tithe.
Yes.
Here's what I really want to know. What did you say to any one of those pastors? Did you ever meet with those ministers, talk with them? What
So,
did you say to them?
so the first situation in being asked to leave because I was a bad reflection, when years down the line, when I went back to confront the situation, there was no recollection of what had transpired.
But did you
And the
say anything in the moment? Like in the moment when it happened or after the service, did you say something?
in the moment when it happened, Dr. Sean, I was too broken to say anything. I was suicidal verge at that time. I was much too broken. And I was not clean and sober. I was just toe up from the flow up. Didn't know what to expect, didn't know if I just didn't know how to process that at the time. I didn't know how to process it.
Okay. Now that's fair. But later on, I'm assuming no one's asking you as an addict to lead a women's ministry. I'm assuming by the time you did that, you were more healed and stable. Did I get that
Oh
right?
yes,
Okay.
this was years down the
Okay,
line.
great. So what I'm asking is, when you were gaslit from the pulpit because you assessed yourself not to be ready to do it, did you ever, in the moment or right after service, talk to the pastor?
No.
Okay.
No, and you can chalk that up to maybe my lack of courage. Okay. And so you just take it. And there's other situations, and I don't mean this to be a negative reflection on any pastor, any minister. And I
Okay,
wrote about.
why, let's go there. Why not? I gotta take this break because they want me to take a break.
I'll take a break.
Here's my question. You think about this over the break. Why
Yes.
not? Like, why shouldn't it be a negative reflection on these pastors, whoever they may be, who we won't name, and just generally speaking on the profession? Listen, I happen to be in the profession. You're in the profession. And I don't see nothing positive to be said about what I'm hearing so far. And I think that we need to start calling a thing a thing. We need to stop covering for people who have bad behavior, even though they're in the pulpit. Okay? Y'all think about that. Jeanette's going to think about this too. When we come back, we're going to get an answer to this question. Because I understand what she's saying, but I think that it might actually be counterintuitive and counterproductive not to say some of these folks are wrong. We'll be right back. Back, everybody. My dear sister Jeanette is here. And Jeanette, listen, I'm enjoying this conversation because we're having it actually on a couple of levels. So let's level set for everybody who may just be tuning in. You've been dealing with church hurt. You've been dealing with being gaslit. You've been dealing with in your past being rejected by the church, having people say all kinds of things about you, right? And yet you've been faithful. You've been a giver. You've done the things that you would expect people in a church really to do, being a part of that community. Here, I got two of the most important questions I'm going to ask you tonight. Here's the first one. Tell me why. Explain to me why you aren't done with church.
Maybe, Dr. Sean, it is still that desire to be loved and accepted and embraced in that community.
And why is that so important to you?
That may have to deal with my whole upbringing, just not having a solid foundation anywhere and looking for it. My book, The Grace to Walk Away, talks about my childhood and these church experiences that I've had. So I'm coming from a real place. And I found theater when I was in college to be that foundation, that home, that place of stability. And then in the real world, perhaps I'm looking for church to have that, foundation, that stability, that love for me, that embrace for me, that care for my soul. So I would have to say that's why, Dr. John.
So this desire and the need, honestly, because all human beings have it, right? For acceptance, for community, solidarity, a place to belong. You can trace that need back to your beginnings, right? Your early stages of your life. What do you think? Let me ask you this. So the little girl in you who is, let's say, 7 or 8 years old, 9 years old is usually the age where little girls take on their voice and their intelligence and their sassiness. So the 9-year-old in you would say what to you right now with respect to how you are still connected to this institution?
The 9-year-old would say, you made it, or you're gonna make it without the acceptance and embrace from the people you adore.
That is such an interesting concept, to love and adore an institution or a person, right, that keeps disappointing you. Talk about that.
Well, Dr. Sean, I've reconciled it to the fact that perhaps it is for good, that isn't the place for me, that the place for me is greater than the edifices of a building, that it's greater than the institution, that it really is intended to glorify God for what he's done, and not the church for what they've done.
No, listen, because that I think that's where we find agreement, right? And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. And then I have a very sincere question for you.
Okay.
If you were my sister, let's say we were siblings, and or my cousin, and we were just sitting around the family reunion, the barbecue, and I said, Jeanette, what's going on with you in the church? And you told me this story, I would say, if you go back, I'm going to meet you in the parking lot, drag you in my car, lock the door, and take you to the beach, because that's where you belong. Because I don't care, and you're not saying this, I'm saying this, and I can say it because I'm in the profession, and as are you, by the way. But I refuse to let anybody that I love be hurt by an institution that is supposed to love them, supposed to empower them, but ends up destroying them, gaslighting them, and rejecting them. No. So here's my sincere question. Why do you think? Because I want you to pull on your analysis cap, and be a thinker, a organic intellectual, as it were. Why is the church hurting so many people? Like, can you explain this behavior?
there is a power struggle within the church. I read this book when I was working on my master's of divinity degree, Dr. Sean, called The Black Church. It's called The Black Church. And one of the things this book pointed out is the fact that the church is the one place that people of color found their prominence back in the day. They've got to be deacons, they got to be pastors, they got to be leaders, where in the community, it was difficult to find themselves in corporate America. So I believe there is a power struggle. There is a sense of need for the authority to take place in the church. And then there's a disregard for what the foundation is sincerely designed for, that we've lost sight of that.
What do you say to people who say, I'm done with church?
I want to say don't be done with it, simply because of the word that says that we are not to forsake the assembling together of ourselves. I would say find the right one. I've been sincerely fulfilled. Oh, you don't agree with that, Dr. Sean? I
You
can
see
see
my
your face right now.
I'm like,
You telling me I'm going back in for some more?
I'm like, Jeanette, I love you, girl, but no, that's not what Dr. Shaw would say. First you get the answer, then I'm gonna answer my own question. Go ahead.
I think I'm done, Dr. Sean. I think I'm done. Now, although I haven't really, I visited a church or two in the last year or so, but maybe a year or two before the pandemic was when I kind of said deuces, and I would, get some word online, or I'm really being edified by this ministry on Clubhouse, Prophetess Norman, and some other places, my brother Tim Ross in Texas. So there's some places, Dr. Sean, where the true, pure, unadulterated word of God is going forth, and people are being blessed and edified, and there is no power trip. There is no big I and little you. There's no need to impress, but a genuine love for the people of God, because many of them have been through the same things that I've been through, the same kinds of things that I've been through. So they understand and can minister from that place of compassion.
Yeah. And I would that everyone find a place for their souls to be edified and to be restored and to be refreshed. You said something earlier that I want to just reiterate. There is a difference between church and God. They are not the same thing.
Yes.
And that God is so much bigger than any denomination, any church, and we ought to be seeking to be connected to the Creator and not to the institutions that human beings create that are fallible and foolish because we created them. I would say to someone who said to me, I'm done with church, I would say to them, well, get in line. A lot of us are. But you still have the obligation to grow. You still have an obligation to be a better person. You still have the obligation to not be what you were at the beginning stages of your life. So you can be done with church, but don't be done with the Creator. Don't
Amen.
be done with an ethical, decent, moral life. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that, Dr. Sean. I can get with that. I can. And however we find the opportunities to be edified and to develop our relationships with Christ, then we should do that. We can do that. I also resolve to the assembling together of ourselves in this century to things like the internet and other, social medias that have been manifest, recently. So
Yeah.
I guess it's not all about the building, is it?
Well, but quite frankly, and then I got to take a break. It's not even always about the people. Because that's not the focus of why we're there. When I go to church, I'm not trying to see nobody. I don't need to see sister so-and-so, brother so-and-so. I didn't come here to see you. I didn't come here to fellowship with you. I didn't come here for none of that. I came to have an encounter with my Creator. That's what I came for. And I think what it's become is exactly what you said. It's power tripping. It's ego. It's authority. It's ruling over people. It's rejecting people, thinking you have the moral right to tell somebody who's good, who's not, who's going into heaven, as if you have a heaven to keep somebody out or a hell to put somebody in. Listen, I got a lot to say about this because
I hear you.
because most of my hurt in life has come from church. Most of my hurt has come from church. And so I know this subject from the inside, not from the outside. And one of the things I'm clear about, I don't care how much you claim to be a church, you don't get to hurt me. I don't care how much you claim to be a pastor, you don't get to hurt me. You can be bishop, I don't care. You can be apostle, I don't care. You do not get to hurt me, abuse me, disrespect me. You don't get to do that. And let's leave it there.
I love it.
Jeanette,
thank you, Dr. Sean.
Thank you for coming on. I so appreciate this. What an interesting conversation. We're gonna have you back because we're gonna talk more about this book and what happened.
I would love that.
Yeah, and what happened after this church hurt.
I would love that, Dr. Sean. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's my pleasure. Listen, everybody, we'll be right back with some Ask Dr. Sean. Welcome back, everybody. I absolutely loved the end of that conversation because I believe in it so much. Don't let people hurt you just because you love them or just because you respect them or just because they have a title. Make sure you're always defending yourself, aware of what people are doing to you, gaslighting you, manipulating you. Listen, people have done all kinds of crazy things in the name of God, and they've justified it with a little scripture. You can find a scripture to justify almost everything. You hear me? Don't be manipulated by religion, by preachers, or even by the scriptures. Think for yourself. Believe in yourself. And separate your creator from the institutions that people create themselves. All right, let's do some Ask Dr. Sean. So you guys always send me amazing videos. And let me remind you that if you want to send in an Ask Dr. Sean video, I want to invite you to do that. And email that video to askdr.sean@foxsoul.tv. Okay? So your video can be featured on this show if you send us a short video asking for advice. Email it to askdr.sean@foxsoul.tv. Okay? All right. These are the folks who sent in some for today. Let's watch this video right now.
Hi, Dr. Sean. I'm Amy Baker, and I'm from Ohio, and I needed some advice. So sometimes I have a hard time saying no, and I want to know what would be a good way to say no without actually hurting someone's feelings or ruining a relationship. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Here's what I know for sure, that sometimes a relationship doesn't become real until somebody gets disappointed. You don't know how people really feel about you until you do something they don't like. Here's my point. Sometimes relationships need a no to begin. Because everybody loves you when you're saying yes. Everybody's your best friend when you're doing everything they want you to do and the way they want you to do it. But you step out and tell someone that you cannot do something or that you won't do something, and then you'll see how much they care about you. You see, you're calling it a relationship because there's been no tension. There's been no reason for rupture that somebody had to get over and then love you anyway. You want to know if you really have relationships and friendships? Tell people that you're incapable of doing something that they want you to do and then see how they respond. Which brings me to the second part of my answer to your question. You don't have to say no. What you need to say is, I can't do it. That's all you got to say, is that I can't do it. I wish I could. I want to, but I can't. I'm incapable of giving you what it is you're asking for. I say this all the time. When you tell people what you can't do, they hear it differently. Because they don't hear it as a dismissive no. They don't hear it as, you rejecting. I'm not rejecting what you need. I'm not acknowledging the fact that it is important to you. I'm telling you that it is beyond my capacity. That's how you do that. And then watch them respond to your inability to fulfill their request. Because that's always the interesting part. I wish you well. Listen, say no and see what happens. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more Ask Dr. Sean right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Remember, you can send your video in as well if you send it to askdr.sean@foxsoul.tv, or you can, send us an email as well. All right, so someone DM'd me this question. Here it is. Recently, I met a man that has everything on my list, but he is white and I am black. My friends and family are against our relationship and say I should wait until a black man comes my way. Should I follow my heart, or do I wait until I meet a black man who is perfect for me? Okay, here's my first question for you. Why are your friends and family a bunch of racists? What's wrong with them? I have a different take than I think a lot of people would have. Now, I'm all for black folks, loving black folks, and I'm all for that 100%. You guys know that I am. I don't even need to justify or say that. But I'm also old enough and wise enough to know that when you find someone who is perfect for you and they're right in front of your face, and it's a love that's genuine and that makes you better and that you can affirm, I don't think that the race of the person should be on the top of the list of the things that you're concerned about. I mean, if they have everything that you're looking for and they check all of your boxes and they don't come with a bunch of red flags and the only thing that's standing in the way is their race, the fact that they're not black. See, the question I always ask people is this: what would you do if you found the love that you always wanted and needed, but it came in a form that you might not normally accept? What would you do? What would you do if you found the love that you always needed and wanted, but it didn't come black? I know what my answer is. And my answer is, if I found the love that I always needed and wanted, I'm accepting the love that I always needed and wanted, and I'm going to have to get over the things about that person that doesn't fit into my whatever preconceived notions of what love or the love of my life should be. You can wait. You can wait if that's what you want to do, but you might be waiting a long time. And in some cases, you might be waiting the rest of your life. And what if the person that you're about to reject is the very person that was sent to you to make you everything you always wanted to be? You'd be saying no to that person? Well, let's reverse it. If a white person sent me this question, I would immediately say that the white person is a racist and needs to get over race. So I hope you think that I'm consistent in my moral witness and that I should say to you and to your family and friends, what is wrong with y'all? I understand that. Now, there's a guy that appears on this network all the time, whose name I won't mention, who is vehemently against interracial dating. Well, that's his hang-up. That's him acting out on his, I won't say hatred, but his whatever issue he's got with white folks. And we have justification to have issues with white folks. I totally get that. But when you break it down to the level of the heart, where people are actually about the business of loving each other, I mean loving each other. I mean hold your hand, put a ring on your finger, take you down the aisle, be there, support you, hold you when you are broken, wipe your tears, run your bath water, help pay your bills, support you, at your side telling you to push when the baby's coming out. Gain 10 pounds, he don't care. Lose 10 pounds, he don't care. Hair fall out with alopecia, he don't care. He is there for you, loving you, holding you, supporting you. And you gonna let his race come between you and that? The devil is a lie. Let's go to the next question, because I've answered that one sufficiently. This video was sent in by Peaches. Let's take a look at it.
Hi, Dr. Sean. My name is Peaches, and I'm from Chicago. I was married for 25 years, and I've been divorced for 5. A week ago, my ex called and said that he realized that he made a mistake and was sorry for the things that he put me through and wanted to know if we could be friends and work together. Dr. Sean, what advice do you have for me?
Run. That's my advice. Run in the opposite direction. You were married 25 years, and married for 25 years. And over the course of that 25 years, from what you just told me, he disrespected you and treated you any kind of way. There's a reason why this man is your ex-husband. Shall I say it again and again and again? There is a reason why this man is your ex-husband, and you need to remember those reasons. And if over the course of 25 years he couldn't find the courage or the temerity or the grace or the kindness or the humanity to change and transform and be the man that you needed him to be while he was in your house, walking down the hall, laying next to you, taking a shower in the other room, if he could not find that then what makes you think that now all of a sudden the distance of 5 years has turned him into somebody that you should want to be connected to again? People love you when they miss you. People love you, and they will make all kinds of proclamations about their commitment to you, their newfound commitment to you once you're out of their lives. Yeah, he's going through the experience that he deserves. And the experience is, when he had you, he should have treated you better. And now that you're gone, he's realizing that he had a good thing. And your job is not to be seduced by his manipulation or his regret or his guilt, because regret and guilt should never be the basis of a relationship, especially not one that's being resurrected out of the ashes. He's feeling guilty and he's feeling regret, and that's exactly what he has earned. Let him reap what he has sown. And that being the benefit of watching you grow and live and dance and have a great life independent of him. Because the love you need and deserve is out there, and you need to keep moving. I tell people all the time, listen, going back is permissible as long as what you're going back to is worth the trouble it's going to take to build it again. Doesn't sound like that's the case with him. Yeah, he made a mistake, but don't you make one. Listen, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. Jeanette, thank you for being a part of this amazing conversation. Remember, if you got videos, send them in to askdr.sean@foxsoul.tv. I'd love to answer your questions. You all be good to each other. I think TGIF is up next. Y'all check that out. It's always a great show. And you know what I always say, people, y'all be good to each other. You know? Because you know why? Because I love you. And I really do. I'll see you next time. How about that?